Hi guys! Today we're going to be talking about present perfect continuous and what the heck it is and why do we even have that tense? Well, that's just English. So, this is Bob. He's fat. And why is he fat? So, let's look at some sentences. What tense is this? Bob's been lazing on the sofa since this morning. Bob's been stuffing his face with pizza for 2 weeks. And Bob's been looking depressed recently. So, I'm going to ask you again. Why is Bob fat? So what do you think? Do you have any ideas? Well, because he's been eating too much pizza and not exercising. So, what tense are they? If you don't know, let's break it down. In fact, even if you do know, let's still break it down. It's always good to do some extra practice. So, we have an ing verb. It's not a trick. This is not a noun. It's not an adjective. It is a verb. And it's our main verb. We also have a verb in front of it, been, and this is an auxiliary verb. There's an apostrophe S here as well. What is this apostrophe S? Well, usually apostrophe S is going to be some kind of be verb. And can we have be and the past participle? Yes, so maybe it's is. No. It's not is. We use be and past participle for passive voice. We've been through this. This cannot be passive voice. This is an active voice sentence. Bob is doing the action. Always be thinking. So this is not is. What is it? Yes, exactly. Has. Let's make this colorful. I always find it good to use lots of colors to explain different types of grammar. Bob has been eating. So we have our be and ing. Be and ing makes continuous. We have has and a past participle. This tells us it's perfect. And how do we know if it's past or present? Always look at the first auxiliary verb. Your first auxiliary verb tells you if it's past tense or present tense. And has is a present form of have. So it's a continuous tense, a perfect tense, and a present tense. Present, perfect, continuous. Yes, but how do we use it? Okay, you know the structure. That won't help you at all if you don't know when to use it. So look at the sentences and see if you can figure out how we're using it. What's the reason that we've chosen this tense? Remember, you can always pause the video. It's better for you to figure out on your own. When someone just gives you the answer, you'll probably forget. Let's look at each one individually. Bob's been lazing on the sofa since this morning. Well, I have some questions for you. We always need to ask ourselves some questions before we decide what tense we're going to use. If you do this automatically in English, great. You probably already do this automatically in your own language. So, number 1, when did Bob start lazing on the sofa? What is he doing now? What is the focus of our sentence? What is important here? So, if you don't know what the answers are, take a moment. No, take more time. Just pause it here. All right, so when did he start lazing on the sofa? Well, we have a time phrase. What's the time phrase? The time phrase is since this morning. So we know that he started lazing on the sofa this morning. What's he doing now? Well, this is a perfect tense and we have a continuous aspect. He's lazing on the sofa now. More importantly, what's the focus of our sentence? What's important here? Well, the focus is on the duration. It started in the past and it continues now. Let's timeline this. I always find that grammar is easier to understand when we have a timeline. So we have the beginning, this morning, and now. Maybe 7 o'clock? No, probably 11 o'clock. He started lazing on the sofa and he's still lazing on the sofa now. So let's look at the second sentence. Bob's been stuffing his face with pizza for 2 weeks. I've got more questions. I've always got more questions. When did Bob start stuffing his face? Is he still stuffing his face? What is the focus of our sentence? What is important here? Remember, if you don't know, right off the top of your head, pause it here. All right, you got the answers? So, when did Bob start stuffing his face? Look at that time phrase. Really easy. 2 weeks ago. Remember, past simple, we can use ago. Is he still stuffing his face? Maybe not at this exact moment, but yeah, generally around now. Maybe he had it for dinner, for lunch, heck, even for breakfast. Pizza for breakfast? Beautiful. And what is the focus of our sentence? Same as the last sentence. The focus is on the duration and that the action continues now, or it's a repeated action. Started in the past, happened many times, and it continues to happen now. So here's our timeline. I've got 2 weeks up here, Monday through Sunday, and Monday, Bob ate a pizza. Wednesday, he ate 2 pizzas. Sunday, he ate 3 frackin' pizzas, and so on and so on. Even if he skipped a day, it's still repeated over time. And I have a question for you, just for fun, in the comments below. How many pizzas do you think he will eat tomorrow? So as you can see, this is all repeated. Sentence 3. Bob's been looking depressed recently. As always, more questions. When did Bob start looking depressed? Does he look depressed now? And has Bob always looked depressed? Pause it here. Really pause it. I know you don't know the answers to all of them. All right, so finally you've got the answers. When did Bob start looking depressed? We don't know. Sometime in the past. And does he look depressed now? Probably yes. Has Bob always looked depressed? Nope. This is hopefully a temporary state. So again, with the timelines, we have sometime in the past and now. So he started looking depressed sometime in the past. Was it last month? 6 months ago? A year ago? Who knows? We don't know because we're terrible, terrible friends and we need to start paying more attention to the people who are important to us. Call up your friends, check on them. Say, hey, long time no see, how have you been? But yeah, he's depressed now. Do something to cheer him up. Because Bob's been eating too much pizza and not exercising. All right, last set of questions, at least for now. So, when did Bob start eating too much pizza and not exercising? Is he still eating too much pizza now? Is he exercising now? What is the focus of our sentence? What's important here? Good job. Thank you for pausing. It's always better to try and work it out yourself, even if you get the wrong answer. It's important for you to try to get it yourself. So, when did Bob start eating too much pizza and not exercising? We don't know. Yes, sometime in the past. When in the past? Don't know. Again, we need to be better friends to our important people. Is he still... No, I'm going to redo this one. This is bad. All right, again. Because Bob's been eating too much pizza and not exercising. Okay, last set of questions, at least for now. When did Bob start eating too much pizza and not exercising? Is he still eating too much pizza now? Is he exercising now? What is the focus of our sentence? What's important here? Great, thank you for pausing. It's important for you to figure it out, and I'm glad that you started doing it. So, when did he start eating too much pizza and not exercising? We don't know, because we're bad friends. Is he still eating too much pizza now? Is he exercising now? Well, we're not sure, but he's probably still eating too much and not exercising. And what is the focus of our sentence? The focus is on repeated... No, it's not repeated. The focus is on the past action that has a present result. And the present result is Bob is fat. What's the reason? Well, the reason is he's been eating too much pizza and not exercising. So, sometime in the past, now, and we have our not exercising, we have our eating too much pizza, our reason and our result. The reason is exactly eating too much pizza and not exercising. The result is, yes, exactly, he's fat. So what do we use present perfect continuous for? Well, it often answers the question, how long? So we have our repeated action or ongoing situation. For example, I've been answering questions. And then we have our time phrase, since 8 o'clock. Nora's been studying English for a couple of years. I've been doing pub quizzes since I was in university. You've been waiting for a new video for ages. I've been looking for my phone all morning. And another reason that we use present perfect continuous is for things that are temporary. I've been exercising more recently. I've been listening to podcasts. I've been living in Malaysia. Bob's been staying at home recently. Bob's been meeting people online. Bob's been working at McDonald's. And what's another way that we can use present perfect continuous? Yep, to show reason and result. A present result due to a past action. So for example, present result is Bob's fat. And why is he fat? Well, because he's been eating too much pizza and not exercising. Bob's lonely. Why is he lonely? What do you think? Before I give you my sentence, what's yours? Well, I said that Bob is lonely because he hasn't been talking with his friends. Bob's happy. What do you think has made him happy? Bob's happy because he's been talking to Bobette online. I feel uplifted. Why do I feel uplifted? Because I've been listening to Bob's story. He felt lonely, he felt depressed, but now he's starting to feel happy. That makes me feel happy. And Bob's feeling better. Why is he feeling better? Because he's making positive changes in his life. And before you ask, yes, you can use other linking words, not just because. For example, what's another linking word we can use? Bob's fat, as he's been eating too much and not exercising. Bob's lonely, since he hasn't been talking with his friends. Bob's happy due to the fact that he is no longer isolating himself. And we don't just have to put our linking word in this order, we can actually change it up a bit. For example, Bob hasn't been talking with his friends, so he's lonely. Bob has been talking with people more, consequently, he feels happier. So these are different ways that you can change your sentence structure, make it a little bit more interesting. And it's always good to think of different ways to change it. You don't want to use the same structure again and again. It's boring. So, something is wrong here. We've just talked about when we can use present perfect continuous, but there are some times when you can't. So here are some sentences that are not quite right. What's wrong with them? Remember, don't just wait for the right answer. Think about what the problem is and how you can fix it. Why is this a problem? What's the solution? Take time to figure it out. Number 1, Bob has been failing his last test. Number 2, Bob's been living in Canada his whole life. Number 3, Bob's happy because he's been meeting Bobette online. Number 4, Bob's been knowing Bobette for a couple of weeks. Number 5, Bob's been talking to Bobette 3 times this week. So I'll give you 5 seconds. If it's not enough time, don't worry. You can pause the video here. So here's your 5-second countdown. All right, so what is the problem in number 1? Yes, exactly. His last test tells us it's not repeated, it was one time. And fail is not something that continues now. It also has no duration. Fail happens like that. So, single action, no duration, and it's not repeated. And how can we fix this? Well, we'll come back to that in a moment. Bob's been living in Canada his whole life. I'll give you a hint if you didn't get this one. The last phrase, his whole life. Exactly. This is not temporary. If it's your whole life, it's not a temporary action or a temporary state. Number 3, Bob's happy because he's been meeting Bobette online. I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking, no, this is correct. But in this situation, usually meet has the idea of for the first time, not something that we do with people we already know. So in this situation, meet is the wrong word to use. There are other verbs that we can use in this situation, especially when we're talking about online. So, for example, you could use words like talk, chat, call, message. You can even say, I Skyped with her, or I've been Skyping with her. You guys are probably too young for Skype. I've been WhatsApping her. So, this is a present result, but the action isn't repeated. Number 4, Bob's been knowing Bobette for a couple of weeks. Come on, think, what type of verb is this? It has to do with the type of verb. It's a state verb. We cannot use state verbs in any continuous tenses. Not present continuous, not past continuous. Number 5, Bob's been talking to Bobette 3 times this week. There's a quantity here. So generally, we don't use quantities when we're using present perfect continuous. That's generally. If you want to know more, watch my next video and I'll go into how we can use quantities with present perfect continuous, but it's not so simple to explain here. So, how do we fix it? So, you now know what's wrong. See if you can fix it. So, pause it here. Good job. So, Bob has been failing his last test. It's not repeated, it has no duration, and it's finished. Past simple. Bob failed his last test. Number 2, Bob's been living in Canada his whole life. As I mentioned, his whole life is a problem. But you can either change this. So if you changed it, great. Bob's been living in Canada for a year. Or we change our tense. So, Bob's lived in Canada, present perfect simple. Now, Bob's lived in Canada his whole life, no problems. Bob's happy because he's been meeting Bobette online. Well, one-time action. He's met Bobette. Number 4, Bob's been knowing Bobette for a couple of weeks. Well, it started in the past, it continues now. We can change this simply to present perfect simple. Number 5, Bob's been talking to Bobette 3 times this week. Well, you could remove your quantity, or, as we've been doing for all of these, change our tense. Bob's talked, present perfect. Bob's talked to Bobette 3 times this week. So, questions, comments, concerns, any problems, let me know. And I'll see you when I see you. Keep practicing.